So what does it mean to educate? What does that mean for you? What images or just experiences that come up?
I'd say the number one
Mm-hmm.
is me going in and working with the teacher and letting them watch so they can see what dance does. Because until they experience it, they just do not, they will never understand it. You could give them all kinds of research and stuff and say, dance is this, dance is that, and they will never really get it because it's just a bunch of words on the paper until they witness it or until they experience it themselves by moving with the kids, right? So, like for instance, at the Learning Edge conference that was just held, Marilyn Barrett was from BYU was teaching this a breakout session, and this conference is mainly for administrators. Although there were some lead teachers there, she had about 25, maybe 30 people in her session, and we were just moving to this book that I've been doing for a long, long time and used to it. And I couldn't believe and I don't know if she was a principal or if she what, but she said about halfway through, she says, "This is so easy." You know, she was expecting something really hard, and I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not a dancer. And so she could see how kids the book comes alive when you let the kids move, because that's what, not just kids, we humans need to move. It's in our DNA. So for me, advocating for dance is going in and working with, letting a teacher either dance with her students, his or her students, or watch me work with their students. That's, to me, a huge advocacy thing. I mean, obviously we need people that will go up and lobby and stuff, you know, just like Beverly Taylor would always do, Sorensen, and she'd go up and lobby, but I'm not good at that. And but I also believe in sharing research, and I take research from all the arts, not just dance, and I put it in teachers' mailboxes, and I do stuff like that too. So
that's awesome. That's great. What do you remember the title of the book that you use?
Which book?
You mentioned a book that the book comes alive, is it
the
just
one that Marilyn Barrett used?
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what that's called?
What book was she using? I don't remember the book she
That's
used.
okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. That's good. So how do you approach administration? Like do you have materials that you use, or do you go off experience? What is the most successful way you've noticed to approach a principal?
So I don't think you can say one. There isn't one, because every principal is different. They're all so unique individually.
Okay.
Like I have one principal here in this district who's brand new this year, and she's a brand new principal too, not just brand new to the district or to the school. And I write emails in the beginning to introduce myself to, this is my job position, this is what I'm doing, and she wrote back, well, in my email, after introducing myself, I say, just to let you know, I can do this for your school, da-da-da-da. She wrote back and said, we already have a visual art teacher in our school. I said, did you not read my email? Did you not get it? So with that principle, I'm going to have to I haven't decided how exactly to get around that yet. So, but principals, just like teachers, but principals are under huge pressure, huge. Like, there's a brand new principal at Edgemont, and he's not brand new principal, but he's brand new to Provo District and to Edgemont. Edgemont has a rich history of visual arts in their school and bringing a lot of arts. In his, before school started, the administration from the district came to him, which I don't know what that means. Maybe the person we're testing, and maybe the elementary ed director, and maybe the superintendent himself, sat down with him and showed him his scores. It just can't believe so much is based on these dang test scores. And they said, your school shouldn't be scoring this low. What's up, you know? So when I met with him, he brought that up. And because they have a BTS specialist full-time, and he's amazing. He wins awards. And so he's, as a brand new principal, he's going, man, I got to think about this. why, I know all the research says when kids do more art, they do better, and then I have the district office coming down, breathing down my neck. So principals are under a lot of pressure, and so when you meet with an administrator, you always have to keep that in mind, that they're under all these incredible restraints. But if you can get them to a conference like the Learning Edge Conference, which I got 7 principals to go to, if you can get them there so they can witness and kind of experience some of that and see what the arts can do and hear it, because some of the principals, I just assume that everybody reads the same books I do and the same research, which is totally false. And so a lot of them aren't reading, they're reading stuff all about testing and about time on task and about more doing math this way or doing more literacy this way, yada, yada, yada. And so if I can even get a principal to read a book, if I think that principal will read this book or whatever, or this piece of research or this article in Principal Magazine. So every administrator is going to be different. So I haven't found one way that works best for everyone.
Everybody?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that test scores. Have you noticed any other kind of roadblocks that come up with administration? Like, what's their biggest concern about accepting a dance instructor?
So time, once again, time on task as far as to literacy and math, because that's what's tested in science.
Gotcha.
And they don't get the fact that you can use dance, you can use visual art, you can use theater, you can use music to teach those things, to help bring life into those subjects. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the biggest thing is, the district's telling me I got to spend 3 hours on a literacy block, so how can I tell my teachers to involve dance or use this theater too, or use this whatever? So that's probably their biggest block is they think they have to spend so many minutes on a core subject. Of course, you could remind them, well, guess what? Dance is part of the core. Mm-hmm. Visual art is part of the core. It's not tested, but it's still there. It's in the core.
A part of the core. That's great. So I have a question, or what have you noticed to be most successful, but you've kind of mentioned that it just depends on the principal.
With the administrator?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So probably, let's see, what could I say is my most successful? Is listening, for sure. I'm amazed at how many principals, like this new principal, Edgemont, I mean, he asked me to come in and visit with him, and he spent an hour and a half going over his concerns and everything, and I just listened to him. And then I gave him feedback on what I know and the research, what it shows and stuff, but mainly listened to him. And he was new to the BTS program, so I had to share with him how the BTS program came about. He wanted to know the history about it. He wanted to know. So, but mostly I listened, and I just kind of built Carl Rogers' technique of reflecting back. And I mean, there are so many, listening is such a habit that so many people don't do. Yeah. I mean, listening is, when you listen to people, they're like fed. They're like mm-hmm. Oh, wow, you really are listening to me. You're not looking at your phone. You're not looking at whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Listening. So I remember, cause my mom, she taught at Larson for a long time.
Larson Elementary, and
mm-hmm.
What's her name?
Michelle Waite. Well, she taught at Provost for 15, 16 years, wow. And then she switched to Larson because it's closer to my house. And I remember, I don't know if she was in Provo District or Nebo, but they had a training. They had a dance instructor come in and kind of teach them the skills or whatnot. And I remember her coming home and be like, I'm not a dancer. Like, I don't know. I don't really feel like that was really useful for me because still it's just bridging that, like, how, because the teachers technically really don't have to dance. It's just instructing it for their students. Yeah. So what ways have you like trained teachers, or do you usually come in and teach for them and kind of go off like how?
So it sounds like the model from Nebo that she got the dance instruction.
Mhm.
And I've talked to all those, I know them all the BTS specialists there in Nebo. Their model is different than everywhere else in the state.
Oh, okay.
And instead of having a BTS specialist in a school, and that's how it started there, it was actually started at Reese. I brought in the first BTS specialist there.
Oh, nice.
They have gone to a model where they have this team. So Holly, I don't know if you met her at Indio. She was there, Holly Marcraft. Her name is, Holly. That's her maiden name.
Is it Amy's sister?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've met her.
So she's the dance person. They have two visual arts person, Tom Woods and Claudia Jex. They have two music people. I don't know their names. And theater is Lisa Bean, one theater person. So that team, so a school 1 year will have dance. 1 year, next year they'll have visual art. Next year they'll have theater. Next year they'll have, and these specialists go into that school, and they're going into a lot of schools throughout the district. And so let's say it's dance. So Holly will go in and do kindergarten through 6 dance. And so your mom was there, and she got this dance instruction. So to me, so your description of your mom is saying, I don't know that it did me any good.
Mm-hmm.
That happens a whole lot.
Yeah.
And Holly says about 90% of the time. She knows that these teachers are not going to use dance. So the model everywhere else, like Chelsea Alley at Provost and at Wasatch, she's going in and teaching the students dance. And she's collaborating with the teachers. So they're doing this in science, or they're doing this in math, or they're doing this in literacy, and so she can connect with them with what Salesforce does. That's the BTS model, is using arts integration. That's how they sell it to the principals. So, so what have I found? Wait, what was the original question?
Like basically like training the teachers or helping them catch.
Okay, so I've taught a whole lot of workshops on state workshops that the Utah State government used to run. Not so much anymore. Now they depend more on like tenor dance doing it, or that's about it. So, but teachers used to go to these great arts conferences when Carol Goodson was over the fine arts for the state of Utah Office of Education, and that doesn't happen ever anymore, except for Arts Express that Callie does. And so teachers go to those, like Janice Shumway usually teaches at Arts Express, and they'll get all these great lesson plans and stuff. And I don't think anyone's ever done any follow-up or any study as to how effective that is. But here's a model that I think, and once again, Callie, she has a research person now, so to me this would make a good action research project. So in Provo, Nebo, Alpine, Jordan, and Wasatch districts, schools are invited, and 3 teachers, and Heather, the kindergarten teacher, is one of them from Provo Peaks, go attend what's called Arts Leadership Academy. So they go for 5 different times for 2 days at a time, so 10 days during the year, and they get introduced to the arts. And they'll spend 2 days just on dance, and they'll spend 2 days on visual art, and they'll spend 2 days on this, and they'll spend on all the art forms, and how to use arts, and how to advocate for arts, and and all the research and everything. So they spend those 10 days in 1 year. The second year, they get assigned an Arts Bridge Scholar, they're called. So an Arts Bridge Scholar, unfortunately, they don't involve UVU, it's just through BYU. So they work one-on-one with that teacher. So like say Heather here, next year she gets to choose either a theater person, a visual art person, and music. None of the teachers will choose music here because throughout every school in Provo they have a Kodai music teacher. So they won't choose music, but the other teachers in the other districts have that choice. Or, what did I leave out? A dance person. So that Arts Bridge Scholar will come and work with them and plan lessons side by side. Probably the Arts Bridge Scholar will teach the first lesson just on their own, and the teacher will observe, and then it's co-teaching. And I forget how many hours they spend that second year, So that's a 2-year cycle of really, and so that has a huge impact